Hello, and welcome back to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin with my lovely co-host,
Ericka Redic.
and we're back. Ericka, where we went to break was you were asking me if it happened, if this kind of literature or books were available, or
Yeah.
right. So frame the question for me again, because
So,
between break, I'm old, I'm a little dabaros, so I forget things.
no, I guess, well, and I was trying to wrap my brain even around my question because, it's so like,
If
I
you
mean,
if you're
just,
wrapping your brain around it, how do you expect me to?
I know. So when we got this book, Gender Queer, which is clearly sexually explicit material they're giving to children. You have guidance counselors in schools hiding gender transitions from parents. Was there anything like this that happened in your generation or when your kids were in school that was so I don't know what right word to use, disaffirming, or was there anything where the school was trying to take your parental rights away, where they were
Absolutely,
telling you
absolutely
they
not.
knew better than
No,
you about your children?
no, I will tell you again. Remember, my kids went to a small town school, but it was very much a partnership where the parents and the
Mm,
teachers were sort of in concert, and certainly in communication. There were misunderstandings, there were issues, there were kid issues. Kids are going to be kids, but by and large, I will tell you that is not something that I grew up with. But I want to reframe this for a second.
okay.
I don't want the people just to talk about the books. This really is a
Mm,
broader issue of parental rights. So let's go back to
mm,
this New Jersey scenario, right?
yeah.
New Jersey passes an executive order that basically said that schools not only don't they have to tell parents, are forbidden from telling parents when their kids want to, do a gender, what do they call it? Gender
Transition.
transition. Thank you. That's it. It's like Obama. We're transitioning. Um, for New America. Thank you, President Obama. Um, and three school districts, conservative school districts, rebel, pass different, states, local statutes, and they
Mm,
sue them. So Sussex County Republican Party, by the way, and I got to
mm,
get the guy's name right because he deserves a shout out. So the chairman of the Sussex County Party is Joe, and here we go with names again, La Barbera, puts out this cartoon. Now, I don't know if you can put it up on the screen, but this is in the old sort of Tammany
mm.
Hall. And folks, I don't know if you can see this, but we're going to put it up on the screen real quick. So if you see the cartoon, here it is, right?
Yep.
And it's "No Family is Safe from Phil Murphy's Sex Ed's Mandate." And it shows the parents pulling, it shows the governor carrying the kid away from the parents pulling the kids back. And then the other part is they're ready to give them an injection, i.e. a vaccine from the school, and they're ready to, transition them. It
Yep.
is it's satirical, but it encapsulates what the argument is here. What are
Yeah.
parental rights? What rights do you have, ladies and gentlemen, as a parent, as a mother or a father, to know what your children are doing? And we've already established you're legally responsible for any damages they do to another people
That's
or their
right.
property, but you're not entitled to know what's being taught in schools, right? You're not
Yep.
entitled to know if they're transitioning. You're not, I
Yep.
mean, so the issue here really is parental rights. And I want to turn this over to you in a second, but here's what the guy ends up saying, which is the county chair in Sussex County, New Jersey, ends up saying, you parents do not have a right. If you take out transgender issue, replace it with any other issue, parents don't have a right to be informed about their children anymore. And that's, we were talking a break about slippery slope, because if they can do it on this, then what rights do parents have to know anything about what's being taught in school?
Well, and that's you can't it used to be that you couldn't even give your kid an Advil without getting a parent's permission. And
That's right.
so where is the
That's
funding coming from in these transitions? What happens if the
taxpayer
school
dollar. It's
decides
taxpayer dollars, of course.
and so, what if this kid is now on hormone treatments or hormone therapy that's cancer causing? If they go to the doctor for some other issue and the parents don't know that they're doing hormone stuff or puberty blockers, how does that affect other organs and other things? things. They're
Right.
not even age of majority to be able to smoke cigarettes, buy a gun, or do anything.
Repay their student loan.
So who's
Sorry,
going to be
I had to
there?
put that in there.
No, but that's it. So who's going to be there in 5 or 10 years when that person is now an adult and suffering all the medical consequences of the decisions being made? Who's
Ericka,
going to be responsible then?
Ericka, how can you ask such a simple question? That's so simple. Do you know who's going to take care of those children? The state,
Taxpayers.
taxpayers in the state and the village, because it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah,
Don't you
they're
remember?
not going to be there. That's the whole
Right.
thing, is they're not going to be there to help these people when it all goes bad. And that's the reality.
They don't care, Ericka. They don't care. By the way, here was the other side of the argument. So the people, for the educators and the bureaucrats who support Governor Phil Murphy's executive order that forbids schools from communicating with parents about transgendering, they said the following: outing these students against their will poses serious mental health risks. And to go back to an earlier show we did last week, you talk about guns, everyone talks about gun safety and gun violence. No one ever talks about mental health, but here we're concerned about mental health of transgender kids, which, I'm sorry, if you want a transgender, I think you have a mental health issue to begin with.
Well,
I'm sorry. You heard it here first. So
also,
wait. So this threatens physical harms to students, including risking increased suicide, decreases the likelihood students will seek support, and shirks the district's obligation to create a safe and supportive learning environment for all. So the state, right, is concerned about a safe environment, right, in the school, but they don't give parents any rights at home to do anything, because what they're saying is they're safer. So let me see if I got this straight. So what the state is really saying is that children are safer in school being taught by government bureaucrats. And let's remember, folks, it's not public schools, it's government run schools. So children are safer there than in a loving home. Ericka, what am I missing?
I think they are so dumb.
There's that word again. They're not
Oh
dumb.
my God. Well,
They're
here's the thing, Robert, here's what's so stupid about that argument is, if you identify as a trans person or whatever, they already have this is a group of people whose suicidality rate or attempted suicide rate is over 40%. So what the school is saying is that students who already apparently have almost a 50% suicidality rate, we're not going to tell the parents that they have a disorder,
mental health issue,
a mental health issue that
Right.
puts them in a group of people that has a 50% suicidality rate. We're just going to keep the parents blind and unknowing that their child is in this group. How safe is that kid running around if 50% of the time, even when you're affirmed and transitioned, oh my God, then how do they protect? Then they can't protect. Oh my God. I can't, my brain is hurting.
Well, my ears are hurting.
Like,
but that's
you're
okay.
in danger. I know, I'm getting shrill. Like, you're in danger. You're
Ericka,
encouraging them into a group that has a 50% suicidality rate.
All right, I'm not laughing with you. I'm laughing at you. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
Look, as much as you and I have, I would say, have fun on a very difficult issue, your point is really well taken. This is a segment of society whose suicide rate is so far above the norm that to deny them the parental support that they might need. And look, folks, if your kid's transitioning and you're supporting of it, then that's a family decision. My opinion is a little different than that, but it begins in the home, it ends in the home, in my opinion, as long as you're not breaking any laws like, thou shalt not murder kind of thing. Right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this comes down to the government saying, and again, these are government run schools. Repeat after me, government run schools. This is the government telling you, the parents, that your child is safer with them than they are with you.
And
I find
wait,
that is such an egregious position, and no one is calling them out on that.
well, and Robert, there used to be a law, a rule, okay? That if you are an educator, you are a mandatory reporter. So if a child says that they're going to hurt themselves or others, they are duty bound to tell the parents and to tell law enforcement. Teachers, guidance counselors, administrators are mandatory reporters. Are we now taking that out of their charge? So if my kid says
actually,
I'm
that's a good
trans
question.
and that means I'm more likely to commit then you are legally supposed to tell the parent.
Wait a minute. I am not a lawyer, and I don't know if that legal obligation. First of all, I don't know if it was a legal obligation, and I don't know if it still is a legal obligation. But you raise a valid point. Certainly, when I was growing up, that the teachers were obligated to inform the parents if a child under their care, custody, and control, i.e., in their classroom, was threatening to hurt themselves, threatening to hurt others. Right? I mean that kind of thing. But again, I think let's go back to basics. I think Governor Youngkin got elected in Virginia by promoting a sane return to sanity of parental rights, because I'm sorry, it doesn't take a village. And Lord Benjamin, it doesn't even take two villages, although I saw the note, to raise a transgender kid. That was okay. That was good. It takes a family to raise a child, and it's that simple. And
Yeah.
more importantly, parents have a right to be involved in their kids' education. I want to segue because people think that this comes down to banning books. I mean, in Texas, they just fired a teacher because she read a diary of Anne Frank to their children. So a teacher, let me see if I got this right.
What?
Hang on. This is Texas teacher fired after assigning an illustrated Anne Frank book, which the original novel. So this was the unabridged version. A Texas middle school teacher has been fired after assigning blah blah. It doesn't give names here, but this is recent as recently as last week. So, but here's the thing: this is how upside down we are, and how Humpty Dumpty, is falling off the wall into pieces here. On the one hand, they're banning a book written by a Holocaust victim who is a piece of history, an acknowledged piece of history. And they're banning the book, but they're firing the teacher. Yet the teachers that are transgendering your children and promoting that, right, are not fired. The teachers that are reading or making them read all sorts of different books that are ideologically driven, like gender queer, are not reprimanded, are not fired. I mean, how upside down? I mean, this is like out of Alice in Wonderland to me. It's like up the down staircase, right? I'm waiting for the rabbit to pop out of the hole with the big watch, and saying he's late, and it's just, I'm late for, remember? So,
Yes.
by the way, is Alice in Wonderland allowed to be read now in public schools? Because if you're banning Anne
Probably
Frank,
not.
so if you're banning Anne Frank, I'm going like, I don't just, so that's the whole thing. So it's just really,
Well, and isn't it interesting? We just got to know y'all from our producer, Lord Benjamin, stop saying the S word, basically the ending of your own life. For those of you who are listening on the radio, this doesn't affect you, but for those who listen on the podcast, on social media, that word is actually triggers the algorithm to then decrease your reach. So just by having this conversation, the algorithms in social media and in podcasts will downgrade our video and suppress it so people can't hear this conversation. And
we'll have to
bleep out the word. Exactly. And so just imagine y'all that they are so committed to us not having these conversations in public that they literally will downgrade us for using English
It's
words.
called censorship, Erica. It's
Mm.
called censorship. So let's take this to in closing out this segment. I want to take this to a more positive note.
All
Well,
right, I like it.
somewhat more positive note.
Okay. All
So
right.
there are warriors fighting back. You've heard us talk about before Ryan Walters, and if you haven't looked them up,
Mm.
Ryan Walters is the superintendent of schools in Oklahoma, and he is committed to quote unquote putting God back in schools. Now,
Yeah.
don't you know how when Democrats don't like something, they want to cancel it? So when they don't
Yes.
like a show, rather than change the channel, they want to cancel it, right?
Yeah.
If you're not praying at the right altar, i.e.,
You're not allowed
wokeism,
to
you
exist.
you're
Yep.
not allowed to exist. So he basically is now the Democrats in Oklahoma are calling for his impeachment because they are saying that he's inciting violence. Because what ends up happening now Oklahoma, right? No. So the Democrats made a formal request to the speaker because apparently there was he put out a meme on libs of TikTok, whatever that
Mhm.
influence, right?
Yep.
And about sort of the things that were going on in the schools, and he changed some of the wording a little bit. So a lot of the people in Oklahoma were angry and started calling in bomb threats to the schools. Now I realize that that's wrong and they shouldn't do that, but I have 2 points here. There are people that are fighting back, but when you fight back like we talked about last week with Chairman Ager, good
Yeah.
people don't want to step forward because they're going to be
Yeah.
intimidated or they're going to be laden with lawsuits and they're going to go bankrupt defending them.
Yeah.
But here's the other issue. Now you have all these Democrats, whether it's in Oklahoma, and I want to talk about Ryan Walters in a second, but in Oklahoma and elsewhere that are, oh my God, the violence and the violence. Where do you think the political violence became okay under Obama? It became okay after George Floyd. Political violence became okay in this country, and it shouldn't be okay, by the way. Let's be clear for the record. I am not advocating political violence is okay. Violence in the name of politics is not okay. But
Mhm.
political violence, the facts are, ladies and gentlemen, political violence became okay during the Obama years, during George Floyd, during the Ferguson riots, during
Yep.
Black Lives Matter in the summer of 2020, when it was a mostly peaceful gathering when half the city burned. Tell me, yeah, talk to David Dorn's widow, the retired or off duty cop in
Mhm.
St. Louis, who was just guarding a friend's store that got shot by the mob, right?
Yep.
Political violence, folks, became okay then. Now, when you have even threats going on because people are angry, and now they're allowed to unleash their anger. Thank you, President Obama. Right
Yep.
now, it's an issue because it threatens them. Again, we come back to being hoisted on your own petard. What
Yep.
say you?
Well, additionally, unfortunately, I question whether or not those bomb threats actually came from the Democrats or people who are, mad about what's happening. We've seen repeatedly now that that some of these attacks or these threats are actually hoaxes by the very people who are claiming victimhood. So, how many people now, the
Well,
whole
that's
Gretchen,
interesting. That's
remember,
interesting.
right? Remember
Yeah,
the
maybe. I don't know.
kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer was crazy right winger Trump MAGA people, and it turned out it was actually mostly like CIA and cops who
Well, it
were
wasn't CIA.
encouraging it.
It was FBI. It was
Oh,
FBI.
FBI and
It wasn't
and
CIA.
local police who were actually
And by the way,
encouraging it.
it was FBI informants, by the way. It wasn't, to my knowledge, actual members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But they
Okay.
were same
But it
thing we're
was
trying to figure out with
basically
January 6th.
entrapment.
It
Exactly.
was
It was
basically,
basically entrapment.
I would like to believe you're wrong, but I can't prove it. And part of me,
All over
I-
all
Yeah,
over the
I don't know.
country,
I don't
Robert,
know.
we're seeing racial slurs that are written on the sides of buildings, and it turns out it was a black person who was just didn't think they were getting attention. People faking, the Jussie Smolletts of the world, right?
Right,
We have
exactly.
so little racism, we have to get black people to fake beating us up in a sub-zero temperatures in Chicago and call it MAGA country. Like I unfortunately I now question whether or not those threats are even valid. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't
Interesting.
know.
Could be.
Yeah.
All right. We are getting the high sign from Lord Benjamin yet again. My, how time flies, Ericka,
It's
when we're having fun.
flying.
Man, it is flying. Folks, you are listening to Robert Chernin and
Ericka Redic.
the lovely Ericka Redic. And we're going to go make some money at break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.